Welcome to Experts Explain Trauma. Today we've got Tim Fletcher joining us, and he's going to be answering questions about complex trauma that a lot of us survivors ask ourselves. He's also going to be giving us lots of tips to help us on our healing journey. Our question for today, Tim, is, for a survivor who grew up being told their needs were a burden, how do you help them even believe they are worthy of having needs now?
So if I can just start at the beginning of that. So not all children in complex trauma were told that their needs were a burden. Some were, many were, but some, their parents just did that sigh,
Yeah.
or rolled their eyes a little bit, or the child sensed that the parents were resistant, that the parents didn't really want to meet their needs. They were doing it more out of obligation than out of enthusiasm. And children just pick up on that. And so all of a sudden they just feel not just that my needs are a burden, but I'm a burden. So anybody that connects with me is going to get weighed down by me. Anybody that connects with me I'm going to drain their energy. I'm going to be a source of irritation after a while in their life, because I don't add to people's lives. I take away from people's lives. And that's just a terrible kind of mindset about yourself to grow up with. But that's what comes out of complex trauma. And so if I can back up just a little bit farther, basically what is happening in complex trauma is that those in authority aren't treating those under their authority, the children, as being equals. There's a bit narcissistic. They might be pure narcissists. They might not. They just might be a bit narcissistic. But it's my needs matter more than your needs. And so if I want something, you better jump and meet my needs, and you better do it right now. But if you want something, you're inconveniencing me. You're adding to my difficult day. And so often they will then distort stuff and give a message to a child, not just that you're a burden, but you're being selfish. You're always wanting stuff. You're always needing stuff. You're not considerate of others. So you're getting all kinds of other messages besides being a burden that are training the child's conscience to feel guilty for having a need. Not just for expressing a need, but for having a need. They now feel they're being selfish. They're being narcissistic themselves for even having a need. And it's all because they've always felt that relationships there's an inferior person and a superior person, and they're always the inferior person, and therefore their needs don't matter. They're the one that has to make the sacrifices for everybody else. So the only way they can make relationships work is, I am a burden, I must earn love, and I must give, and never ask for anything. And that becomes their template for relationships, which then sets them up for codependency and abusive relationships in adult life. So coming out of that, why I laid that groundwork for is this. Coming out of that, to begin to go, it's not good enough just to go in your head, okay, I'm not a burden. Because now what's happening is, as soon as you express a need, you just triggered 10 different things inside of you. I'm being selfish. They're going to look down on me and judge me. They're going to think I'm needy, and not want a relationship with me. So nobody's going to want to connect with me. So now I got fear in place. I got shame that's triggered. I've got lies that are triggered. All of those things. But what I want people to realize is that's all in your limbic brain, the emotional part of your brain. So when you now express a need, it creates the feelings you had as a 5-year-old. Oh, I'm being selfish. I'm being too much for people. They're going to reject me. Fear, all of those things now are going to be triggered in your limbic brain. What I want people to realize is those are all lies and distortions. So they're not reliable guides. So the key is to get out of your limbic brain into your wise brain, your cortex, where you know the truth. And so that's then where you can go, hey, I my needs matter just as much as everybody else's. And I can tell myself that. And now I can act on that, even though my limbic brain says, you're being selfish. And yeah, it's screaming. And you go, no, I'm not. I'm going to act on it. Okay, so that's part one. But then you still got to retrain that limbic brain. So what I often use with people is, if a little baby expressed a need and started crying, would you look down on that baby and say it's being selfish? If your daughter, who's say 5 years old, came and said, Mommy, I don't feel good, and is crying, would you see that child as being bad or self? And they go, no, 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 that's. And so what I want them to begin to see is that basically everybody in their life that comes to them with a need that's legitimate, they accept, they welcome, they don't see it as an inconvenience. They're happy to meet it, even though it might mean a bit of sacrifice, but they still want to meet it. And I go,
Right.
so why are you the one exception? Everybody else in your world is deserving of their needs being met.
Yeah.
You're the only person in your world who's not deserving. Do you see a flaw in your logic?
I know.
So
Ooh, I
sometimes that,
struggle with that one still.
yeah, sometimes that comparison point just helps them realize, okay, this isn't a feelings thing. This is, I've developed this core belief that is actually a lie because it doesn't hold true in any other relationship
Yeah.
in my life. So why do I think it's true with me? And I'm the exception out of the billions of people in the world. Um,
Yeah. Yeah.
and so sometimes you can start to kind of find chinks in their armor that way. And that begins to help them. But at some point, what I want people to realize is, when you've put yourself down and your needs don't matter and you have to give and earn love and never ask and feel like a burden all the time, that's your normal. That's your
Yeah.
default setting. That's what your brain is
Yep.
comfortable with. But you now realize that that's an unhealthy normal. And so to go to a healthy normal where you're just as important as everybody else, that's going to feel wrong to your brain.
Mm-hmm.
That's
Mm-hmm.
going to feel selfish to your brain because it's the
Mm-hmm.
opposite of what your normal was, which your brain is comfortable with. And so to go to a new normal that's healthy from an old normal that's unhealthy always feels wrong, always
Mm-hmm.
feels uncomfortable, weird, and it triggers all the things inside you. But what I want clients to realize is, if you realize I'm transitioning from an unhealthy normal to a healthy normal, it takes about 6 months before the new normal feels normal and healthy.
Mm-hmm.
And that means I got to go through 6 months of feeling awkward and weird and second guessing myself and having all these little voices in my head screaming at me that I'm being
Mm-hmm.
selfish and all of that. But if I stick at it, the brain will come to accept the new normal. And that will then become the kind of the judge of everything. So you just have to get
Yeah.
through that transition time.
Yeah, I call that the messy middle of healing, right? That's
Exactly.
one of the messy middles of healing. It's that transition period that feels really uncomfortable and opposite of the way you wanna feel. Yeah, that's part of
Yeah.
it. I still struggle with it because that was a big one for me, and it's funny, I did research on these questions, and I didn't pick them because they necessarily identify with me, but I can identify with them, and this one for sure, and I'll tell you a story of what kinda confirmed it with me is I lost my mom when I was 16 to cancer, and my dad did not take it well. That was the love of his life, and she really was his world. And, I remember not long after that, him telling me I think I had started my senior year of high school, and I was really struggling. And he said, "Well, I can't afford to take care of you, so you should just go ahead and quit school and go get a job." And I had the mindset of going to college. Like, I was ready to head off to college, and my mom, when she was alive, she was supportive of that, and I'm like, "Wait, what?" And I just thought, not I'm 16 years old or 17 years old, so, how much of life experience do I have to realize that, no, you're supposed to take care of me, right? But that kind of solidified the whole, and as a little girl, I was a lot of fun for my mom because she could dress me up and make me look cute, and it was fun until I started putting on weight, and then I became a burden. So I got this confirmation and then that final one. So, and the thing that comes to my head when I think about when I'm a burden is I don't want to hurt someone. I don't want to bother someone. That's like the underlying thing for me is, oh God, if I'm a burden, then I'm bothering them, and that, I could hurt them. I could, all that kind of stuff. And it is still, I've come a long way, but I'm still sometimes in that transition period. My brain will still go back to that place of, you're putting a need out there and now you're a burden.
Right.
And I have to go through those.
For sure. And I would I would add a piece to that, and I don't know if this is true of you, but many kids that feel like a burden or are made to feel like a burden, it's not just that the parents were wrapped up in their own little worlds and had their own issues and the child's needs just were a bit too much for them, but sometimes they had one parent who used their needs to get attention. So their mom was, let's say, super needy, and that's how she got attention. That's how she got people to feel sorry for her. That's how she got people to come and, so she got validation, she got attention, she got connection, all from being needy. And sometimes they then require the children to almost parent them as the parents. You take care of me, and because I'm too sick today, I don't feel good today. And it's always they're needy. And so the children just have this reaction to that, almost a rebellion against, I never want to be needy because I never want to be like my mom.
Oh.
Does that make sense?
Yes.
And so that's where that sense of burden now I'm actually going to be. And so what I want people to realize is there's legitimate needs, but there's also self-serving needs. And so part of recovery is realizing that when I have a legitimate need that I can't meet myself, I need help. But I will have needs I can meet myself. And to go and try to get others to meet it, that becomes an illegitimate need. That's where I'm trying to get attention, and people are then going to turn against me, and people are going to get tired of me because I'm not being responsible for my needs. So a big part of recovery is learning what are the needs that I have that I can meet myself, because I need to learn how to do that. But what are the needs that I need help with? And it's okay then to go for help. And if I'm not overplaying that hand and becoming too needy, people don't mind if they truly are safe people and they're in their recovery journey themselves. So
You know what you help with, though, Tim? You help me find the line in the sand. Does that make sense? Because,
yes.
Especially in this case, that last part absolutely just kind of really helped me, because it's like, where's the line in the sand? Where is it that I can cross over and I'm not a burden? Where's that line in the sand? And you explain it so well that you show me where that line in the sand is. I'm like, okay, now I get it. So now I've got tools that I can use so that I don't become a burden, that I find that fine balance of, when I can ask for help, when it's appropriate and when it's not. And that last part was huge. I never even thought of it. And that's probably the final thing for me, in that I did have to meet my mom's needs for sure. And especially when she got cancer when I was 14. So I spent 2 years taking care of her. And I wouldn't change that for the world, right? I would not change that for the world. But it was a huge responsibility for a 14-year-old who has never experienced this and didn't know her mother was dying. So the whole time I'm taking care of her, I didn't know she was dying. So totally, that one hit home with me.
And I would add, if I can, I'm always adding extra pieces, Lisa. But
oh, they're great though.
So what happens in complex trauma is you try to spin something that's unhealthy to make it sound healthy. So if within, it comes out of Western culture, is what's a strong person? Well, they're self-reliant. They don't need anybody. They're self-sufficient. And we glamorize that in the West. That's really become kind of an icon almost of Western thought. And so you can get somebody like your mom, let's say, or your dad or whatever. And so they're always saying, you should be self-sufficient. You shouldn't be reaching out to people for needs. You should be taking care of yourself. That's what strong people do. That's what healthy people do. No, they don't. But we've twisted that and presented it as strength. And really what it means is you should be superhuman. You should be wearing a cape almost, where you have no needs that are beyond your own ability to meet. And it's not realistic. And so it sets people up to think they should be able to do everything themselves. Then they burn themselves out. They get discouraged, depressed, full of anxiety all the time because they just don't have a clue how they're going to meet all their needs and responsibilities, because they think that's the epitome of what a healthy person should be like.
You're so right. I never even thought, but you're right. That's exactly the way we present ourselves. You're a hero if you can do this all on your own. And really, we were built to connect. We were built to,
Exactly.
we were created to connect with each other and to be with each other and to support each other. That's, a community. We're not, I don't believe God created us to go stand on our own and, solve all the world problems. That's his job.
Yeah. So can I sum it up this way?
Mm-hmm.
So if you think of locus of control, so you have external control, internal control. So a locus of control is who's meeting my needs. So a baby comes into the world with zero ability to meet their needs. So they basically have external control. They give all of the control of their lives to somebody else, to an external provider, parents, school teachers, whatever. And so they basically farm out the meeting of their needs to outsource it all to that. But the goal of parenting is to train the child and give them tools so they learn how to meet their own needs, so that the control of their lives goes from external to internal control, so that by the time they get to move away from home, their internal control is pretty well established, that they can meet 95% of their needs quite well on their own. But they still need some people to meet some of their needs. So they never get to 100% internal control. They always need a wee bit of external control. So the challenge for many in recovery is they want to go to 100% internal control, not possible, or they still want to outsource all the meeting of their needs to a therapist, to a group, to their friends. You fix me, you take care of me. And it's, no, you got to find the balance between internal and external. Mm-hmm. Otherwise, you're just not going to make it.
Mm-hmm. It's so true. I've met both people. I've had people in my workshop that they literally, it was like they would just want to lay on the couch and just tell their story and not do anything. And I can't help you at all. Like that's a little much. Yeah. Thank you, Tim. Thank you. That was really good. I appreciate it. Do you have any questions for our experts? Let us know in the comments, and make sure to subscribe so that you can get more insightful information on trauma healing.